Welcome to an episode of КьюАй that's all about inventions and discoveries. In fact, anything that's just the job. They say that the greatest of all inventors is accident. With that in mind, let's meet the tremendously timely Jason Manford. The consistently coincidental Jeremy Clarkson. The stupefyingly serendipitous Sandi Toksvig. An accident waiting to happen, Alan Davies. So, let's hear your Alexander Graham Bells. Jason goes. Jeremy goes.
Is it going to be a car horn?
No, surprising. Sandi goes.
I want something trim.
Yeah. Yes. And Alan goes. I can listen to this forever.
He loves this one.
It's a 14-and-a-half-hour. It's a Wagner ringtone. Isn't that wonderful? I can listen to that forever. Anyway, so let's begin with an interesting question. What were chainsaws originally invented for?
Proctology.
Wow. That's scary.
Yeah, that's a...
Slicing an arse in half.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you're in the right area, I have to say.
What?
I mean,
Really?
well,
Circumcision.
Well, what I mean is, you began straight away with medicine. You didn't say trees or, you know, cutting down
cutting off legs.
buildings.
Bones and
bones is the right answer. Yes, in particular, it was a rather unpleasant procedure.
Oh, don't. It'll be a boy thing against a girl thing. It
Well,
will
not
be.
against, you know.
Well, no,
It's doctors trying to help.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. It'll be a boy thinking a woman's taking far too long over labour, going, oh, I can't stand all that panting. I know, we'll get a chainsaw, just cut that baby out. That's what it is.
You know, you're absolutely right. It was in 1783.
That's no excuse.
It was two Scots doctors called John Aitken and James Jaffrey, and it was called a symphysiotomy, and it was a procedure to widen the pelvis if the baby's head was too large to pass through.
Oh, can you hear the high tone of all those sighs?
What I like about this picture...
It's a bit eye-watering.
It's a ladies' ward, so, of course, there is some baking going on.
Yes.
On the left. Cake display, cakes.
And I tell you what,
Buns in the oven, Stephen. You see what I did there?
In the oven.
they didn't really, darling.
I'm afraid they did. When I say chainsaw, it was literally a chain. It was like a watch chain, in fact.
Ah, right.
It was like an up and down.
lumberjack giving it... It's a boy!
They hadn't yet invented the internal combustion engine.
And caesarean sections.
Caesarean sections have replaced the same idea. That
Phew.
Yes, quite, exactly.
It's
It's a bit of a relief.
To do the caesarean section, I think. Sawing the pelvic bone in half is not as easy as maybe just a small incision and...
But is there
I
not...
know, you'd have thought they would have
Pop
made
it out the sunroof.
But this was before antiseptic... it was before antiseptic surgery, and, of course, it was before any kind of anaesthetic.
Was there not a meeting? You know what I mean? There's not a meeting where someone goes, I've got it. And they go, what? They go, chainsaw, innit?
Well, they looked at a watch chain and they said, you know, if we could sort of ease away the bone like that, rather than using a saw. I know, everyone's wincing.
Have we got another question that isn't about that?
Would it heal? Presumably not very well.
Well, they then went on to use the same thing. For example, if someone had a bit of diseased bone, they would do the same thing. They would sort of tick it in, they'd go up and down like that, and then they'd do it lower down, and the two bits would fuse together and have a stiff arm. But it would get rid of the diseased bone. It was called an osteotome. It eventually became like a chainsaw. You can see one here.
My God.
That is more like a chainsaw. Pretty unpleasant.
You don't want that coming at you.
You really don't.
No.
You really, really don't.
remember my wife had a baby. I remember it well. And, yeah, it was a grand day. It was a grand day. But when she had a baby, and there's a point where you go in to see the fella who's going to sort it out on the day. That's him. Yeah, he's got an official title. And you go in to see him, and as the husband, he says, right, you sit there on a chair, and then he pulls the curtain across. Yes. While him and your wife are in this thing, while he has a little dabble or whatever he's doing.
It's a bit intimate, isn't it?
It's a bit like you go, I've seen it, mate. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing... This is why we're here.
Well, you don't look when that happens, though, do you, at the moment of conception? Do you actually have a look? You're looking into... Surely. Sorry.
Stephen doesn't need to know, Jason. He doesn't need to know.
You're gazing lovingly into her eyes.
Gazing lovingly at the Born Identity, which is still on the television. As you reach for your drink.
What do you think, darling, that he's got a periscope at the moment?
I'm sorry.
I don't know why you and I are having this conversation.
After the invention of the internal combustion engine, where we were getting Jeremy to his home territory now, eventually by 1920 they were small enough to be able to have a hand-powered
cut down trees.
And then they cut down trees, yes. Exactly. Well, anyway, there you are. Chainsaws were originally invented for midwives. Staying in that general area, unfortunately, explain how an electric jockstrap works.
Is there going to be a demonstration?
Do you know, I kind of wish there were.
Is that what this is?
No.
That's what it's...
Is it a warming thing, or...
an electric anything takes us into a period of time.
It's Victorian galvanism.
Exactly. Everybody thought that electricity would cure everything, stimulate everything and achieve everything. And so at the back of every newspaper there was an electrical something, a galvanic bath. But these were electric jockstraps. And
well, presumably, because they had all sorts of things to stop boys playing with themselves, must have been... It would stop you, wouldn't it? It would stop you, wouldn't it?
No.
I
think it might be nice.
Yes.
Oh, really?
You're spot on. We men know that. Because there are certain code words in Victorian English. Nervous and general debility, lost vigour, decline and the whole train of gloomy attendants was standard code for impotence. Enter the Heidelberg electric belt. There it is.
It's a bit high up, isn't it? Oh,
yes.
See, there's a thing down there.
No, that's really kind of buzzing away in the important area. And that is actually going to cause you to... well, I'm afraid the phrase is pretty embarrassing. They advise seminal economy. They're advising against...
EasyJet?
Yeah. They're advising against wantonly jettisoning too much nervous substance. Basically,
what they called it?
That's code for semen. In other words, it's essentially a sex toy.
Wantonly jettisoning.
Don't wantonly jettison your nervous substance.
I like the idea of nervous semen just coming out going...
Whoa!
He's quite camp. Perhaps he's having problems with his virility because he's sleeping with the wrong sex.
Well, it might be that. But that genuinely was an item, as you can see, hugely advertised. There are lots of different...
So is it designed then to lift the dormant chap or to denervify the semen?
It's basically designed saying, would you like to enjoy the experience of a little bit of a tingling down there that maybe has disappeared, or probably it was just like, that's a damn good thing to take to a hotel room.
What have they gone out of fashion?
I know. I feel like if Ann Summers did them, you could see it, not in the upstairs bit, the downstairs bit of Ann Summers, you know, like...
Tell me about this, Jason, because
well, upstairs is like, just like Chocolate Willies and that. Downstairs, someone's going to get hurt, Stephen.
Really? I've never been in an Ann Summers. That's weird. You think it'd be the other way around. You'd have to go upstairs in order to...
No, you come in at, like, ground floor level. I mean, only going off our nearest 12 branches.
Yes, right.
But, yeah, that's the normal one. Then you sort of pop downstairs, you know, anniversary or whatever, you pop downstairs and...
But the other thing about that is you've got 10 days free trial.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see it. It is actually...
What if you send it back and it goes to somebody else? That's what I'm worried about with the free trial.
I know, exactly. You're using a used one.
Yeah.
It is going to get much more acceptable and decent, this programme, I promise you, as we move along. So, anyway, unfortunately, we are staying in the nether regions. Why would you want to wear your underpants inside out? And I'm not looking at you here, I have to say,
right.
Sandy.
It's a boy
this is a male question, yeah.
There's a cameraman I used to work with who reckoned he could get 5 days out of a single pair of underpants, and I can't work out what the 5th is. I mean, we know inside out, then back to front, then back to front, and inside out covers all the important parts.
But the 5th,
he had a
right,
5th day, which
The 5th day, he wore them as a hat.
Never quite understood it.
I love he's got his glasses round his neck.
I might do a bit of reading.
And a martini.
Yes, it's a very
at a cocktail
peculiar
party.
photograph. I don't really understand it. But what sort of pants is he wearing?
Y-fronts.
Y-fronts. Now, all Y-fronts are the same. And what is it about them that is the
Oh, is it because they're one side?
Yes, they're made for right-handed people.
The aperture.
Oh,
So you might say, wear them inside out, and then a left-handed person would be able to use that. But the weird thing is, counterintuitively, and I have some Y-fronts for you, and you can have them. This is maybe your first
I
time,
couldn't be
Sandy.
more thrilled.
Green for you.
Please don't pass me a pair of
I'll
Y-fronts.
take the pink one, he'll go.
You'll take the pink one.
Yeah.
It's like Reservoir Dogs, isn't it? And you can be Mr. Blue. Now, you may say, OK, so the right hand opens the flap there.
Turn them inside out,
Turn
and it's
them
still the
inside-
right hand.
That's
right
what,
hand.
show the audience, show the ladies and gentlemen, those are inside out. And you would think, turn them inside out,
have a
but
look.
they don't reverse in that sense.
Because I'm...
They're magic pants.
They're magic pants.
They're the same.
Well, I'm
They are the
I'm
same
actually
with-
left-handed, so...
You got them on back to front.
No, it's there, look, it's there, there's the bits. That's not helped me at all,
You
that.
would think that turning them inside out would move the right to the left,
Yes.
but it doesn't. And you'd have to have a
Imagine,
really
if you
good
will, the penis
topological
emerging.
brain to map that in your head.
I have a photograph of David Williams on my telephone in a pair of
course you do.
underpants. But he's got 2 Ys going on.
Oh.
Oh.
That's all.
That explains a lot about David.
As an individual, he's certainly not none too wise.
Day 5.
I didn't mention, Alan, that we had to collect...
Don't stop it.
From the crew, because we didn't actually have any... no, they are, of course, brand new and clean, as you
They're
would
rather
say.
good for a warm day.
They are. That's why they were developed. And it started with the X fronts, which were in an X shape. And they were reasonably successful. And then a man in America called Arthur Knebler came up with Y fronts, or jockey shorts, and it just took off enormously.
Jockey shorts. Jockey shorts.
And they were an instant...
Jockey shorts.
Jockey
I turned my
shorts.
jockey shorts inside out.
That's
I
very good.
still can't find my cock.
Dear, this really has probably begun about as low as any program we've ever done. It's going to rise, I promise you.
It's going to rise. I swear, Stephen, it's a gift. Your abilities of innuendo astound me every year.
I don't mean to, I know. I just have to whip it out and stick a red pencil through it.
I
Anyway.
feel I've inadvertently arrived on a boys' night.
And now we come to our dubious theory, ladies and gentlemen.
A dubious theory from Stephen Fry.
Yes. People who believe in urotherapy claim that drinking your own urine can cure everything from cancer to the common cold, not to mention boosting your libido and generally pepping you up. Others say that's a load of old whittle. Look it up on drinkmyurine.co.uk and decide for yourself.
A dubious theory from Stephen Fry.
Anyway, it's Haley Mills's website, is it?
No, not Henry Mills.
Oh, Sarah.
You know who
Wasn't
you
it
think
Sarah?
of? Sarah.
Sarah.
Just went
Miles.
Sarah Miles.
Sarah
is what I
Miles.
meant. Haley Mills.
Yeah. Sarah Miles, the actress, is a urinobibe. She drinks her own urine.
What's the reason that it might make you better? Surely it's
Let
full
me,
of...
let me give you the theory of a woman called Martha Christie. She wrote Your Own Perfect Medicine. The very first toilet visit of the day,
Wow.
she says, is the most beneficial. She recommends starting with 5 drops of fresh morning urine under the tongue. Before gradually increasing the dosage to as much as a cupful morning and night.
But 5 drops, that's remarkable control.
I think the idea is to take a pipette.
Pipette?
Oh.
Yes, a little...
And put it in...
Well, yeah. No, not in you. No, you pee into a bowl or something, and then, I don't know.
A bowl?
Your first toilet visit of the day, as she likes to call
But
it.
Victorian women used to take warm boys' urine for freckles.
Really?
It was thought to be something that if you applied it to your face...
It would give you freckles or take them away?
Except take them away.
It's a wonder
You may
why...
have noticed I have completely freckle-free.
It's a wonder why we're still here sometimes.
It is, isn't it?
You read stuff, you think, what, the Victorian women pissing on their own faces for freckles? You think...
This is...
No, they didn't wee on their own faces. They got a boy to do it. You'd have to be a contortionist to wee on your own face.
You really would, wouldn't you? It's a backward somersault.
I thought a headstand would probably do it, wouldn't it? Gravity would take
Yeah,
its...
that would sort it out. Oh, no. I get sent very odd things by members of the public. Thank you. And I got sent a thing to stand up weeing. And I thought it was...
Oh, a funnel.
It's
Oh, the
called a
sheepy.
she-wee. Do you know it's the most marvellous thing?
It's Japanese, isn't it?
Darling, I piss in all sorts of places now. I get out of the car, I can't be bothered to pop into the service station. I'm on the back wheel. It's absolutely the most marvellous thing.
It is mostly for driving, I thought, the she-wee. Driving under the influence of the need for a wee is the most dangerous thing a
I would
human
imagine
being
it
can
would
do.
be.
I have reached 170 miles an hour. Disabled parking spaces outside motorway service stations, they're mine, because I am disabled by the need... You are
Exactly.
just... You become consumed with... I
had a wee in a water bottle once, driving about 100 mile an hour, just that wee in this water bottle. And...
But then it won't stop.
well, I failed my driving test.
Weeing in a bottle in a car when you realise there's more than it will fit in the bottle.
Oh, that's the worst.
No.
You can't pitch
I
it
can't
off.
empty it out of the window,
Well,
can't pinch it off.
Just have a little sip.
Slowly.
And I feel better.
A coach full of school children just moves alongside and they look down on you and you're going, ah!
What you need is a straw, see? Take it out as it goes
Straight back in again.
And 5 little
And
drops
it'll
under
cure
the
your
tongue.
cancer as well.
Yeah.
Any freckles?
Do you know of any other urinibibes?
No, I don't.
J.D. Salinger, apparently. And, of course, Jennifer Saunders... Not Jennifer Saunders herself, but her character Eddie Monsoon in Ab Fab. It's urine therapy, darling. It's not to be sniffed at, as she said. The Prime Minister, Morarji Desai of India, he was a urinibibe. He was elected when he was 80 years old, so it certainly, obviously didn't do it any harm. Helen Andrews of the British Dietetic Association says there are no health benefits. In fact, it could be detrimental. Each time you put it back, it'll come out more concentrated, and that's not good for health. It damage the gut.
Toilet visit in the morning means sometimes you don't want to be in the same room as that, do you?
Especially if
Never
you've had
mind putting it under your tongue.
Imagine if you've had asparagus the night before.
But, I mean, sometimes it's got that sugar puff smell, hasn't it? And you're like...
Yes.
You know, on that day, you might go, all right, I'll risk it. You know what I mean?
Anyway, that's probably enough about pee. So, what was your great-grandmother doing down the back of the sofa?
Was she a borrower?
Was she a borrower? No.
I come from a particularly small family, and we lost many various reasons. I had an aunt went through a cane chair. We never saw her again.
Was she dead and been cremated when you spilt it?
What was happening around the time of one's great-grandmother? What sort of...
They were using the elderly to stuff sofas.
About 100 years ago, families began to do a thing in order to register their lives and formalise their existences after
Photographs.
weddings.
So photographs.
Exactly.
So Victorian...
And particularly their babies. They like to have their babies photographed. But exposure times were quite long. And how do you keep a baby still?
Oh, I've seen this. This is this weird thing...
Heroin.
There's loads of pictures and they've got, like, sheets over their head.
Yes.
They're sort of holding the child in place.
Exactly. They're called hidden mother photographs.
They're terrifying. There's a website of them.
Yes.
And they're terrifying. Yes. Oh, wow. It's horrible.
It's like a woman in a burqa.
That's
There's the mother pretending to be a sofa or an item of furniture, keeping her baby quiet and still enough for the exposure time of the photograph. We got another one where the mother looks a bit like a carpet. I mean, it's really... That's not even a baby. I know, it's a young girl. There is a whole class of these. And
Don't move, bitch, don't move.
You and Jason definitely get the points there for having known about them.
It's
They're
terrifying.
rather peculiar.
Brilliant, though. There's hundreds of... And they're all sinister. Like, you've gone... Rather than just let the kid stand by itself, you've gone, go stand with that ghost.
Yes.
Well, you know, it's weird.
Well, the mother will be talking to the child, saying, it's all right, darling, sit still. I'm going to...
The chair's talking!
I on the sofa.
I'm afraid there's an even more macabre class of photograph. Obviously, back in those days, also infant mortality was very high, and families decided that it would be a good idea to have a photograph of their dead child. And so there would be as if asleep. We're not going to show them to you because I think it's a bit too sick, but there are lots of photographs of dead babies made to look as if they're asleep.
Victorians were weird.
They were sort of
weird. I want to put a picture of my dead child on the mantelpiece, and then I'm going to drink some urine and pop my penis into this electrical thing.
You're right, actually. Come to think of it, we beat ourselves up for being a sort of morally corrupt generation.
But they used to take the hair of dead people and turn it into jewellery, didn't they?
Yes, they
It's very
certainly
common
did.
to make it into necklaces.
There was certainly a melancholy, macabre obsession with death. There's no question about that.
Maybe it's not so much an obsession with death, it's just that death was more present
You're
in
quite
people's
right.
lives.
It's a very good point. We are probably amongst the first generations of human beings ever, most of whom have never seen a dead human body. As it happens, I went to the body farm in Tennessee, where I suddenly saw 200, never having seen a single one.
Sorry, the body farm.
It's called the body farm, yes.
Wow, we have the body shop. It's not quite the same thing, is it?
No, it's a forensic pathology. And they take bodies who volunteer, and they're burnt, and they're hidden in the trunks of cars.
Decomposition.
They're decomposed. And a lot of murderers have been brought to book because of it, because you've been able to prove that they've died, they've been dead that long.
Where is this place? This
is in Tennessee.
You have the best holidays, honestly.
Do you hear about the chap, the auctioneer, summoned to the big Scottish castle? This is not a joke, by the way. But he was summoned to a big Scottish castle where the lord had just died and the family was selling off all the contents. And he was looking around, trying to find this hat stand, which he couldn't. And then finally he came across it, and it was a German soldier. And what had happened was that the lord, or his ancestors, had been in the First World War with his Batman, who it was always supposed was a little more than his Batman.
Right.
Who had looked over the trench to see if it was all right and was shot by the Germans on the other side. And this enraged the Scottish chap so much, he ran across no man's land, killed the German, dragged him back to the British trenches, sent him home with instructions he'd be stuffed and used as a hat stand for the rest of time. But only 80 years had elapsed, so it was as though his ancestors would still be around in Germany, and they would come and they had to go find them and say, "Oh, did he have a dignified death?" Not really, no.
The umbrella in his mouth.
Since 1917 in the hall of a Scottish castle, a stuffed German soldier.
That's not a bad idea when you die, just to say, right, I'll be hat stand now.
It is.
I'd do that.
But
stand
You
around
could
the
get
house.
a job in a photographer's holding babies, couldn't you?
Yes.
We have for you probably the first ever photograph of a human being, which is rather exciting. It's from the 1840s, and it's by Louis Daguerre himself. He took a photograph. In those days, very long exposure, and all the people who were there would have moved through as a blur. You wouldn't have seen. But there is a boot boy with a customer with his leg up, as it were, and you can see that, and we can probably circle it for you and give you a little bit of a... And that is the first human being, or a pair of human beings, ever photographed. It's rather wonderful, isn't it?
How long does it take doing them shoes, then?
Yeah, I know, it's surprising. It was a 10-minute exposure, in fact, a 10-minute exposure. It was in 1838. That's how long ago it was. And we have a photograph for you, and you have to identify who the person is in the photograph. Who's that?
Is that Bruce Forsyth?
It's not Bruce Forsyth.
In the early years.
It's quite surprising. It's someone you would not imagine there would be a photograph of.
OK. Can you give us a country? Is
He's
it
British.
He's a British.
He was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Small, it's a Prime Minister
but he was from an Irish
Is
family.
it-
Actually, the Duke of Wellington.
Wow.
Duke of Wellington.
Yeah, the victor of Waterloo, as an old man. He looks surprisingly benign, considering his reputation. But isn't it amazing? There is a photograph of the Duke of Wellington.
idea.
Yeah, it's rather fabulous.
That's just a great picture.
It is actually a lovely picture,
It is,
isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so let's move on to something very, very different. Name something interesting you can do with a slinky.
Well, it's
You can't untangle it.
That's certainly... Oh, God, I got through so many as a child. It was so upsetting.
It was the most... You go to the top of the stairs and you look at this, oh, no! And then that would be it in your toy.
We've given you some stairs. In fact, you can take your stairs and your slinky out and
Oh, well,
demonstrate.
there's
There
some
may be
slinkies.
young people in the audience.
You're going to
Never had
love
the
this.
You
excitement.
could attach. You could
This
attach
is
it
I'm
to
going
your,
back. Look at that!
Yay!
Isn't that fun? The best thing.
Oh, dear.
I'm
you may
literally
have
the
pointed it in the
happiest
wrong
man in
direction.
the world.
That is brilliant.
Which So he invented this out of... He was a suspension designer, wasn't he?
He was a naval officer. His name was Richard James, and it was in 1940... It's called the Allen effect.
Just...
No. You don't do it like that. You lift the top.
Somebody go and get him a rally top.
How can you not work a slinky? How can you not do that?
Can you imagine giving this to a child now and going, that's it, that's your gift. Happy Christmas.
Whatever
Honestly,
you
we had-
do, don't attach it to your electric jockstrap.
No.
it would
But he
make
didn't
a
invent
most
it by accident. He was making
Yes.
cool springs and he
He
invented
was
it.
an American naval officer, and he literally knocked over a spring, and it went for a walk. And
Yeah.
he thought, oh, that's interesting. And so he developed an experiment, and he came up with a slinky. And more than...
Look, to be fair, it was his wife who thought it would make a good toy.
Yes, it's true.
Let us,
And-
let us remember
Yeah,
that sometimes
absolutely.
women get overlooked in these things.
more than 300 million were sold, which
Yeah.
is an incredible number.
All to me, because I kept breaking them.
Yeah, I know, because they tangle up. Now, if you'll put them away...
Do you mind if I keep the stairs? Because there's a few shelves in the kitchen that I still...
But what we do have is a very extraordinary effect that happens if you drop a slinky, which is that when you let go of it, the bottom does not move. Watch the film and you'll see what I mean. It's actually really astonishing. It's a very peculiar effect. What's the bottom of the slinky? As it actually happens in very high-speed camera. The bottom is completely still. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
That is a really bizarre effect. I can't really explain quite why that happens.
Oh, I bet James May could. No, you see, the thing
we
is...
haven't-
Oh, God.
Is there a use for this discovery?
But maybe Jason's idea of crossing it with the Heidelberg electric jockstrap may result in a really quite remarkable
You'll
experience.
see me on the next series of Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
I have jettisoned wantonly, but it hasn't hit the floor.
It is a great phrase, wantonly to jettison, isn't it? It really is marvellous. Anyway, now we've got more toys to play with, so put the slinky away. I'm going to ask you, basically, this simple question. Why are jerrys better than flimsies?
Jerry.
When we say a jerry, there are jerry
cans.
Jerry cans. Jerry cans. And what were jerry cans?
But it's a petrol. It's a thing that was used in the war, wasn't it? It was
By whom?
Well, presumably by the Germans.
But we eventually used them, but firstly by the Germans. And we had something else called the flimsy. And unfortunately, the flimsy was absolutely cack.
We only won the war by nicking all their ideas.
Yeah, there's on the left is a jerry can, and there on the right is a flimsy. And General Auchinleck, who was the predecessor of Montgomery in the 8th Army, actually said this about the flimsy. He said, the flimsy in ill-constructed containers for carrying fuel, he said, leaked 30% of its fuel between base and consumer, with huge consequences in lost lives, battles and shipping. So British soldiers basically spent their life trying to steal the jerry can, to the extent the Germans started booby-trapping because they knew that the British wanted to steal them, because they were the most desirable object. The jerry can, I have 2 of them for you. They are absolutely astonishing, incredible inventions. Basically, they're a single weld, like this. They have this fabulous cap. They have an inner lining, which means they can carry water or petrol. They have this thing opens, what's called a donkey dick comes out. His nickname Donkey Dick. But rather cleverly...
It's been a hell of a show for me,
Yeah.
I tell you.
But even, I mean, they have this little indentation here. What do you think that does?
Strength.
It strengthens it, but it also,
Presumably
in heat,
allows it to
it allows it to
expand.
expand. And the handles are absolute genius, because if you have 2 empty ones, you can hold them together using the handles. One here. I'm going to stand up like so.
Standing.
you simply hold them like that using that. But also, when you're holding it, you hand it to someone else, there's a handle. You simply take it like that. And they are...
Getting the donkey stick out now,
almost
sir.
perfect. You won't be able to, it's really, really stiff.
It's amazing. It's a real talent.
How do I do it?
I don't know how you do it.
It's amazing.
But it is genuinely one of the most brilliant designs ever made. It's never been improved.
They still lost.
They still did lose. One of the reasons they lost is that by the end of the war, we produced 21 million of the jerry cans. And I will quote President Roosevelt, who said, without these cans, it would have been impossible for our armies to cut their way across France at a lightning pace, which exceeded even the German blitzkrieg of 1940. So basically, we won the war by stealing the Germans' jerry can, because the movement of vehicles, and therefore of petrol, is absolutely essential in war.
So is that where the word flimsies come from, that?
No, flimsy existed as a word.
Oh,
They were
okay.
called flimsies because they were just so shite.
Oh, I see, right.
Were just square metal boxes that rotted and leaked and were useless.
Okay.
And these designs were, I mean, almost every aspect of them was quite... And not only that, they floated, which the British ones didn't do. So the Germans could drop them at sea or on rivers. I mean, they were kind of the iPod of the day. They were just the most perfect design imaginable. Anyway, can you name an everyday object that was invented in a jail?
Not a glider.
You don't really use a glider every day, do you?
Well, you use one every day.
Yes, that's the point. You're told to use it every day.
Toothbrush.
Yes, is the right answer. And I would be very impressed if you can get the name of the man who invented it, because...
Mr. Toothbrush.
No. No, because...
Mr. Oral B.
Toothbrushes... You're on the right lines in as much...
wisdom.
There are still toothbrushes...
Gibbs.
Under this name... You're close.
Addis.
Yes, Addis!
Addis.
Addis is the right answer.
Thank you very
And
much.
He was
you know,
in prison.
He was in prison. It goes all the way back to 1780. He was in prison for rioting, and he was expected to clean his teeth using a piece of rag and some soot scraped off the back of a chimney. And so he decided that a scaled-down broom would be better. So he got a piece of bone from the food, and he drilled little holes in it, and managed to blag some horsehair off a warder, and made a toothbrush. And then...
I was kind of thinking, you open the door and go, Warder, you haven't got any horsehair, have you?
In those days, those prisons were... But you were allowed to have your own money in prison and so on. So
They often had horses working as warders.
Ah.
That's any horsehair.
There is that possibility. And on his release, he decided to market it, and it coincided with the arrival of sugar from the West Indies and the rise of tooth decay and everything, and it was a gigantic success. And to this very day, toothbrushes are marketed under the name of Addis, as you obviously know because you said the name.
Actually, there's a connection between toothbrushes and prison, because the great Dame Ethel Smythe,
Yes,
the wonderful composer,
who wrote
the March of the Women
exactly.
for the suffragettes, she was arrested also for rioting, and she was taken to Holloway Prison. And in order to support her, all the suffragettes came and stood below her window and sang the March of the Women, and she leant out and conducted with her toothbrush.
Oh,
yeah.
There you are. That is a very good connection. I like that. Excellent. Yeah. Well, there we are. But what's the least promising invention in history?
So something that people thought wasn't going to be...
Yeah, least welcomed and then turned out to be most successful.
It wasn't the energy-saving light bulb, because that's an invention that, for me...
Yeah, but that's been forced upon us.
And it's
Yeah,
the worst invention.
It's not...
It's like, I need this room to be light in about an hour.
I leave them on 24 hours a day so that I can read a book when I go to bed at night.
This was invented by a man called Sylvan Goldberg, but you wouldn't think of it as an invention, and yet I suppose it is, and it's the shopping trolley. And men thought it was effeminate to walk around a shop pushing a trolley, and women thought it was an insult to their ability to carry a basket. Perfectly capable of carrying baskets, I don't need to do it. So he invented it in 1938, and for 2 years he paid people basically just to wander around supermarkets or the early shops, wheeling them, so people got used to the sight of it. And then he died in 1984.
Someone must have paid her to wear that outfit.
Sylvan Goldberg died in 1984, worth $400 million.
Wow, that's a lot of pound coins.
He kept the pound.
It's a lot of clogged canals.
It's a lot of clogged canals as well, yes. So it did work. Another example was bubble gum, which was invented by a man called Frank Fleer in 1906. He called it blibber blubber. But unfortunately, his particular recipe meant that once the bubble had burst, you had to use turpentine. Which is in itself toxic anyway.
That's brilliant.
So have you ever got any form of gum, particularly nicotine gum,
in your hand?
on the screen of an iPhone?
Oh, no. Is that...
That's what I want an invention for, I've just decided. If you get the gum on the front of an iPhone, there is no way of removing it. Hammer, chisel...
There must be an app.
Yeah.
The nicotine gun removal act. Very good. Very good. And I think Sandi would approve of this as well. We ought to hear it from Mary Anderson, 1903.
Mary Anderson.
Do you know about Mary Anderson?
I do. Mary
Tell
Anderson.
me about her.
She invented the windscreen wiper.
Yeah, absolutely. You are a fountain.
Wow.
Well, what I love about that is that it had to be a woman who invented the windscreen wiper, because up until then, men have been going, don't be silly, dear, I can see perfectly well. Of course it was a woman.
Well, unfortunately, yeah, she noticed tram drivers, streetcar drivers, having to stop every now and move snow away, and she invented it in 1903, and really there just weren't enough cars. And by the time it was useful, her patent had elapsed, so she made not a cent from it.
Well, it's the same as Dorothy Levitt, who invented the rear-view mirror. So women enabled you to see where you were going and where you'd been.
Oh, they did it to do their lipstick. Come on.
Dorothy Levitt recommended that you take your compact mirror and place it on the dash so that you could see behind you. And she was the person who invented the rear-view mirror. But again, she didn't make any money out of it because there was no patent.
Oh, well, I'm very impressed you knew about Mary Anderson, and we should indeed pay, you know, due courtesy to her. Anyway, you know how they used to have men with red flags walking in front of cars?
Well, yes.
Yes.
I've heard of such
I don't
thing.
remember it.
Oh!
What a trick.
Because they never did.
They're not?
They never did, no. They had a Red Flag Act, which was a little bit earlier, and it meant if you were in a steam...
He tricks you now.
yes.
It doesn't feel like it's a question.
A steam
It feels
bus.
like it's in the
I
conversation.
know.
Yeah.
It was a trap. It was a wicked trap. I'm very ashamed of
So
myself.
nobody ever had to follow a car? I've
No.
seen a drawing of somebody doing it.
The
I know
Red Flag
drawings
Act
aren't necessarily real.
I saw a drawing of a unicorn once.
Yes.
The Red Flag Act of 1865 required men known as stalkers to walk 60 yards in front of a vehicle.
60 yards?
Yes, carrying a red flag. But it lasted
Miles
in
in front. It's back there, it's coming.
It lasted in 1878.
Any minute
So it was only relevant to traction engines and steam buses. From 1878 to 1896, the flag was optional. And in 1896, it was abolished, and by then there were no more than 80 cars in the UK. So there was never a time when cars were preceded by red flags in the UK. There was never a time, yeah. But talking of useless inventions, what about the dry ear dryer? It's a machine to dry your ears. OK. Drying your ears, it says, has never been simpler or more effective. The device blows hot air into your ear, although the instructions advise you to dry your ears first with a towel.
Is this
a real invention?
All you
it's
need is a
modern.
tube.
Modern,
don't you?
yeah.
You just need a tube.
Yeah. Or a hairdryer would do the job.
You don't even need that, Stephen. You just need a tube.
But most people have hairdryers.
Yeah, but a tube, just a
tube would do
tube.
it. I know, you're right. You're right.
Have you ever invented something that's already invented? I've done that a few times.
Have you?
I invented the bike once. And, yeah, I saw someone on a unicycle and genuinely went, that'd be brilliant with 2 wheels. And I also invented glasses as well when I was at school.
Really?
Yeah, I was doing some geography, and so I had the map, I had a ruler and a pencil, and I had to have a magnifying glass, and I couldn't do all 3 at the same time. And I was thinking, well, I think what would be really good is some sort of magnifying device, but like attached to your face. It's a genuine eureka moment, and I thought, oh no, that's glasses, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so here's a marvellous question. What was wrong with the first sound recording device?
Didn't work.
Didn't have any speakers.
Well, it was that it recorded sound perfectly well.
But you couldn't play it back.
Yes, you couldn't play it back. What happened was a man called Martinval, he was a Frenchman. He used burnt soot and it registered sound waves
They
on
sort
it.
of scratched it out, didn't
But
they?
recently, it was reverse engineered, and engineers managed to get the sound back of him singing Au Clair de Lune.
Is that the thing they played on Radio 4 and Charlotte Green cried with laughter?
Charlotte Green, would you like to hear that moment?
I do know, it was one of my favourite moments of all
Because unfortunately, she had
time.
to announce the death of Abbie Mann, and she couldn't help corpsing, bless her. So you want to listen to this, because you'll hear the oldest ever sound recording, plus the unfortunate event that followed.
American historians have discovered what they think is the earliest recording of the human voice, made on a device which scratched sound waves onto paper blackened by smoke. It was made in 1860, 17 years before Thomas Edison first demonstrated the gramophone, and featured an excerpt from a French song, Au Clair de la Lune. The Academy Award-winning screenwriter Abby Mann has died at the age of 80. He won an Academy Award in 1961 for Judgment at Nuremberg. Excuse me, sorry. Abby Mann also won several Emmys, including one in 1973 for a film which featured a police detective called... the character on whom a long-running TV series was eventually based.
Charlotte Green's great contribution.
There's somebody in the corner of the room going... We haven't got it, we haven't got it. We're going to have to go with the item anyway. I'll do it. I know what it sounds like. They'll never know. Oh, don't laugh.
This one you could record into it, but then nobody could hear it.
Yes,
Can we not just get that for, like, Jedward? Like, they have a lovely day out, that's fine.
Everything would be perfect.
Nobody has to suffer.
You're right. You're absolutely right. OK, so now we're going to go for a jolly jape, and I have an extraordinary pendulum swing that my friends here are going to bring on, and I'm going to show you a remarkable action. It's handmade by our chief science elf, Will Bowen, who's a bit of a genius, and it's an effect that was first noted by Galileo. That's how old it is. But you don't see many of these, and I think it would make a great executive toy. So I'm going to lay this down here and push it and let go. And it will start to go, and it's rather beautiful. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? But it's better than that, because then it starts to get a bit ordinary. And then it starts to move into a different sort of rhythm. And they start to get in step, like that. Ooh, look at that. They're starting to move together again. But then something really amazing happens as well, which is they go back into their wave formation, which is about to happen. It's a whole long process, but it's utterly predictable, and it follows very specific laws of physics. And here it goes back into its waves again. Look at that. I think that's pretty amazing, isn't it? And it will carry on doing that, as you can see. It will carry on going through those cycles behind us. And it's a principle, as I say, that Galileo worked out. The central bob, it makes 60 swings in a minute. The one to its left does 59 in 60 seconds, and so on. It means after 1 minute, they're all back to where they started. And it doesn't matter how far you push a pendulum, it still takes the same amount of time to swing from one side to the other. And it's using that makes it go in and out of sync in these different ways. There it is, it's the Galileo pendulum. And wouldn't it make a great executive toy? Well, that's all the inventions we've got time for this week, except, of course, for the scores. And believe me, these are not invented, much as though people may believe it. The scores are rigorously and scientifically worked out. And in first place, with an extraordinary +13, is Sandi Toksvig! Wow! And only 10 points behind in second place with +3, Jeremy Clarkson! What was that? And very impressive from Jason Manford with +2! Wow! I'm afraid the smallest swing of the pendulum, -8, Alan Davies! And that's all from Jason, Jeremy, Sandi, Alan and me. Thank you. Be extremely kind to each other forever, and good night.
A brand new series of QI starts this Friday on BBC Two. A taster in a moment. More comedy with Family Guy on BBC 3 in 5 minutes, while on BBC 4 at 11:20 a tribute to the late great Dusty Springfield, featuring some of her finest performances at the BBC.
The 11th series, so everything relates to the letter K, including some of these.
Kiwis.
Keystone. Knockers.
Keep still.
Keep still.
Kitchen skills.
Kingfisher.
Kilogram. Kidnap.
QWERTY keyboard.
Kangaroo scrotum.
On a night, really?
No. No. This is all I know. No, what do you want to know? There's a spelling issue there.
Brand new QI starts Friday at 10 on BBC Two and BBC Two HD.